It's been quite a roller coaster for fans of Kevin Hart lately, hasn't it? Because rumors seem to be swirling around him nonstop, making it tough to catch a break. And now it seems like there's another bombshell about to drop. And this time, it's supposedly coming straight from the legendary Eddie Murphy himself. It's not just some random gossip monger stirring the pot, and it's got people talking, questioning, and maybe even a little bit worried. Now, before you brush this off as just another baseless rumor, let's consider the facts. Sure, Kevin and Eddie have had their share of camaraderie, even collaborating on projects together. But we know that when it comes to calling out someone for their supposed antics, Eddie Murphy doesn't mince words. He's known for speaking his mind, regardless of history or friendships. So, what exactly has Kevin allegedly done to ruffle Eddie's feathers to the point where he's ready to air out Kevin's laundry? Let's dive in. Now, Kevin's no stranger to all the juicy gossip and hearsay. I mean, people have been throwing shade at him left and right, questioning how he climbed the ladder of fame, whispering about him cozying up to the big shots just to get ahead, and even suggesting he's not exactly loyal in his relationships. Despite Kevin putting in the effort to buff up his image over time and denying all these juicy tidbits, the rumor mill keeps on churning. Let's kick things off with the whole alleged cheating saga. There was this interview with Tasha K where Kevin's former assistant decided to spill some serious tea. We're talking cheating allegations, gambling habits, and a whole lot of other drama. The assistant reportedly spilled that Kevin has been cheating on his current wife, Eniko Hart, and he's allegedly involved with a flight attendant named Nick Morgan. The assistant even claimed that Eniko was supposedly pregnant with their second child, while Kevin was, well, leaving all over the counter at the Heartbeat. And apparently he's doing the whole shower at the side piece's place and then head home routine. Tasha K didn't let up and straight up asked about a potential gambling problem. Turns out Kevin's game is poker, and allegedly he went on a gambling spree that was so intense they had to cut half checks to the crew.
I told Kevin is with you with a girl named Mix Morgan. She's his flight attendant. She's on his planes.
Does Kevin have a gambling problem or something?
His game is poker.
So right after that jaw-dropping interview, Kevin was not having any of it. He went full-on lawsuit mode. He filed a lawsuit against Tasha K, claiming she tried to squeeze him for cash by threatening to spill the tea from the interview with his ex-assistant, Maisha Shakes. And the lawsuit even called out the assistant for supposedly tossing out some falsehoods. The thing is, Tasha K apparently told Kevin, "Hey, pay me $20,000 and I won't drop this damaging interview bomb about you." And that damaging interview is the one we just saw. Now, Kevin's legal squad caught wind of this and said Tasha was basically trying to strong-arm him into paying up. And when the money didn't come through, she was all set to unleash the entire interview. Kevin's lawyer is throwing down the gauntlet, saying Tasha has already dipped her toes into criminal conduct and torturous acts. They're warning her that if she doesn't stop, not only will the damages Kevin can seek increase, but she could also be looking at some serious criminal penalties. But Tasha K isn't exactly a stranger to lawsuits, and Kevin taking her to court isn't deterring her. She's still on a mission to unearth all of Kevin's secrets. Now, the rumors does not stop there. We've also heard how Kevin had been unfaithful to his ex-wife, Torrei Hart, with his current wife, Eniko Hart. Torrei and Kevin Hart called it quits back in 2011 after 8 years of marriage. Torrei was the one who dropped the divorce bomb, catching Kevin red-handed in the act of cheating with multiple women. And it wasn't just a one-time slip. Rumor has it that Eniko, Kevin's current wife, might have been one of those mistresses when he was still hitched to Torrei. In an emotional recount, Torrei spilled the beans about her dreams of being a power couple with Kevin, shattered by the harsh reality of divorce. She admitted feeling angry, not just because she doesn't believe in divorce, but also because she had to see Kevin everywhere, from billboards to Hollywood events.
That me and Kevin were going to have that. In my mind, we were supposed to be the power couple. I was angry at that enough, then I felt like a failure. That I have to see him everywhere.
Now here's the real kicker. Torrei wasn't just his wife. She was also putting in work behind the scenes, writing jokes for Kevin's movies and stand-up shows. The messed up part? Kevin never gave her credit for her comedic genius. And to add insult to injury, he allegedly spent the money he made from those jokes on his mistresses. Even after Kevin cheated on Torrei, he had the audacity to crack jokes about it during his stand-up shows. Imagine being the person who stood by him when he had nothing, contributed to his success, and then getting clowned on stage.
Will ruin your life. Lying will ruin your Lying ruined my marriage. True shit, sweetie. Lying ruined my marriage.
But it seems might be getting worse for Kevin because Torrei is hitting the road on tour with Cat Williams. I mean, Kevin and Cat basically can't stand each other. So the fact that Torrei Hart, Kevin's ex-wife, is hitching her wagon to Cat Williams for a tour has got people raising their eyebrows and wondering, what's the deal? Torrei spilled the beans on Instagram, sharing a pic of her and her good friend, Cat Williams. And she's not just joining any tour, but Cat's ongoing Dark Matter tour. Now here's where it gets spicy. The post also included a snippet from that viral Club Shay Shay interview where Cat went all in, taking shots at Kevin and a bunch of others. Then in a recent interview, when Kevin was asked about Torrei hitting the road with Cat, he tried to play it cool, deliver a mature response, but you could practically see the annoyance radiating off him.
You know, your ex-wife is going on tour with Cat.
Hope the tour is great.
Now, if you're not up to speed on the whole Kevin Hart and Cat Williams beef, it's been a roller coaster of nasty comments and public spats. You might recall that the beef traces back to the 2008 film Fool's Gold. Williams was initially set to take the lead, but his legal issues at the time forced him to pass on the gig, which involved filming Down Under in Australia. Enter Kevin Hart, who swooped in and snagged the role instead. According to the grapevine, that's where the sparks of tension between Williams and Hart first ignited. And Kevin was one of those Cat dragged to filth on the Club Shay Shay podcast. Cat straight up called Kevin an industry plant. He pointed out how quickly Kevin rose to fame, scoring a sitcom and starring in Soul Plane all within his first year in LA. According to Cat, this raises eyebrows and makes Kevin's early history seem a bit like a mystery. He already had his deals when he got here. Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA and in his first year in LA, he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? No, we've never heard of that before that person or since that person, he continued saying. What do you think a plant is? Maybe people don't understand the definition of these words.
Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA and in his first year in LA, he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? What do you think a plant is?
Cat voiced his worries about letting folks who might not be straight up truthful spin their own tales without any checks. He talked about how messed up it is that the liars out there got all the goods and resources, leaving the rest of us playing catch up. And he isn't buying into the idea that having all those resources means you're automatically speaking the truth. According to Cat, it's a real concern letting these shady characters run wild with their own narratives, especially when they're sitting on a mountain of resources. But Cat isn't blind to the fact that speaking out might land him in hot water. He knows folks might see him as just another bitter, jealous comedian behind his back. When asked if he feared any backlash, Williams responded, "Satan can't create anything. That includes blessings for his people. That's why, you know what the #1 job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is to act like it didn't happen." The whole Kevin Hart is an industry plant theory goes back to a Hollywood rumor that's been circulating for quite a while. There's this talk that entertainers are kind of blackmailed into wearing a dress on screen, almost like a rite of passage before they can level up in the fame game. And it's not just Cat Williams who's been talking about this, even Dave Chappelle has touched on it. In 2006, during an appearance on OPR, Dave spilled the tea about why he turned down a whopping $50 million deal from Comedy Central. He wasn't in it just for the money because, as he explained, big bucks often come with some serious strings attached. Dave, being in the showbiz game since he was 14, had seen and heard stories about what happens behind the scenes. He pointed out examples like Mariah Carey landing a $100 million deal only to end up mysteriously labeled as crazy a few months later, or Martin Lawrence making it big and then suddenly waving a gun on the streets, screaming about someone trying to It's those stories that had Dave cautious. When OPR asked him about hearing these stories, Dave laid it out. He'd seen it happen before, and it always went down when a person's career was on the brink of reaching the next level. According to Dave, he was pressured to create sketches that made people laugh at him, not with him. It felt like they were asking him to put himself on blast for a paycheck. And wait, there's more to this saga. Dave Chappelle even recalled being asked to wear a dress for a movie he did with Martin Lawrence. He walks into the trailer and sees a dress, thinking it's the wrong one. Turns out it's for a scene where Martin's character sneaks out of jail by dressing Chappelle as a Chappelle's like, "Nah, I'm not doing that. It wasn't in the discussion." They try to pressure him, saying it's a hilarious bit, but he stands his ground, saying he doesn't need a dress to be funny. The whole thing gets intense with writers, directors, and producers pushing, but Chappelle sticks to his guns. In the end, they come up with a new scene without the dress, and he's left wondering, how did you write that so fast? Dave just didn't vibe with it. Not because wearing a dress is an issue on its own, but because he felt the industry was trying to corner black artists into doing whatever it took for success. They kept hounding him until they figured out he wouldn't budge. Dave revealed this whole experience was an eye-opener. It took being told to wear a dress for him to connect the dots and realize this wasn't just his struggle. Lots of other black men had been asked to do the same. Martin Lawrence rocked it in Big Mama's House. Eddie Murphy pulled it off in the Nutty Professor series, and Jamie Foxx left a mark with his unforgettable Ugly Wanda on In Living Color. Then you've got the Wayans brothers trying their hand at it with White Chicks. Oh, and we can't forget the less successful Juwanna Mann. In the mix of all this, Tyler Perry takes the cake with his Medea franchise. During this time, an upcoming Kevin would join the conversation, dropping wisdom talks left and right. Kevin was all about artists protecting their brand, setting boundaries, and not crossing certain lines. At that point, he was vibing with his personal beliefs. No dress drama in sight. When the topic of wearing a dress for a role came up, Kevin was straight up like, nah, haven't faced that dress dilemma. Gotta know your boundaries and protect your brand. He was all about steering clear of anything that could compromise his image. Kevin even mentioned turning down a request to dribble a basketball on a talk show because it would make him look foolish. It's all about protecting the brand.
Definitely haven't ran into to put on the dress. I mean, you have to have boundaries. You have to have limits that you refuse to cross.
But here's where it gets interesting. Just a year later, boom, Kevin's on an SNL skit rocking a dress.
The new pope is 9-year-old Oscar nominee, Kavenshané Wallace.
Fans were not having it. Accusations of selling out and being fake started flying around. It was like, hold up, wasn't you just preaching about boundaries and protecting your brand, Kevin? The plot twist got fans feeling some type of way, and they called him out for doing the exact thing he said artists shouldn't do. But then Kevin Hart pulled a complete 180 on us, flipping the script from his earlier stance on wearing dresses. He initially said, no way, I'm not putting on a dress. Fast forward to when the opportunity knocked, and he found the whole idea funny. Suddenly he was like, why not? I'm doing it. But here's where it gets tricky. Kevin, in defense mode, starts saying nobody forced Martin Lawrence into Big Mama's House, or Tyler Perry into Medea, or Jamie Foxx into Wanda's dress. It was a choice, according to Kevin.
I was actually one of those comedians that said, no, I wouldn't wear a dress. There's no way I would wear a dress. And then when proposed with the opportunity of what I felt was funny, I said, oh, that's funny, I'm gonna do it. It's all about choice. Nobody makes you do anything. Right. Nobody says this is what you got to do. This is the only way that you're going to do it.
He's hitting us with the it's all about choice narrative. But then there's this counter argument floating around. People are saying it's not just a matter of choice. Kevin himself wasn't okay with the idea before the money talks began. When the cash starts rolling in, suddenly integrity takes a back seat. It's like money becomes this magical thing that makes people do stuff they swore they'd never do. And truth be told, when that paycheck comes into the picture, folks tend to reveal their true colors. Remember when Steve Harvey dropped that bomb about integrity? He straight up said, give me $10 million and I'll embarrass myself all the way to the bank. He was willing to throw his integrity out the window for a hefty paycheck. It's a harsh reality, but hey, he put it out there.
10 million for 4 million.
Now, back to Kevin Hart. After he did the dress thing, his career went through the roof. He became the highest paid comedian ever, raking in cash like no one else. It's like the dress move was the golden ticket to success in the comedy game. People might argue about the sacrifice of integrity, but at the end of the day, Kevin's laughing all the way to the bank. Now, if you're not in the loop, there's been talk circulating for a while that black comedians, at some point, feel pressured to wear a dress in films. Some see it as a sort of buck breaking, or a way to prove to Hollywood that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make it. Let me break down the origin of buck breaking real quick. Back in the day, mainly in the Caribbean, slave owners used this messed up tactic against male slaves who were seen as rebellious. They'd make the enslaved guy drop his pants, bend over a tree stump, and then whip him real bad. The goal? Weaken him so he couldn't resist the R that followed. The white slave owner would go ahead and do the unspeakable right in front of the enslaved man's wife. Imagine the trauma of that. Now fast forward to today, and you see a similar vibe. Strong black men, even in Hollywood, ending up in dresses, just like they did back then. It messes with your head, especially for kids seeing these role models switching up like that. It's like they're playing mind games, doing it in front of fans, family, the whole deal. That's the connection folks are making. History repeating itself, but in a different form. It's kind of funny, in a messed up way. You notice the pattern. They always bring in these strong, black, manly dudes first. Like they weren't dressing up in high school or middle school, always rocking that masculine vibe. And it's not about being or whatever, but we're talking about straight black men here. Check out how they enter Hollywood, all strong and confident. Then peep how they leave. It's a whole different scene. And you can't just blame the industry alone. These guys make the choice to go along with it. They willingly bow down to the agenda just to level up. We gotta hold them accountable too. They're ready to do anything for that next level, even if it means going through this weird ritual. The industry's like, how bad do you want this money? Are you down to sell out your people, push a certain agenda, and emasculate yourself in front of everyone? Just like the buck breaking back in the day, but now it's crazy. These dudes are willingly allowing it. Times have changed, and now it's a choice. Now let's circle back to Kevin. Another person that has called him out is Monique. She mentioned how Kevin supposedly ditched her when she was going through some real rough times, facing the heat from big names like OPR Winfrey and Tyler Perry. And if that isn't enough to raise your eyebrows, there's talk that Kevin's been cozying up to both Tyler Perry and OPR Winfrey to climb the Hollywood ladder. Back in 2021, there was this memorable episode on Kevin Hart's Comedy Goldmines podcast where he had the legendary Monique as his guest. They delved deep into Monique's life, her rise in the comedy scene, and where she stands today in her career. Now, if you're not familiar with it, Monique has had some long-standing issues with OPR Winfrey and Tyler Perry, and trust me, we'll get into that later, so hang tight. During their conversation, Monique opened up about the struggles her family faced, describing it as being up against the wall. It was then that Kevin Hart, being the stand-up guy he is, stepped in to offer his support. He expressed to Monique that she's like family to him, a mother, an aunt, a sister rolled into one, and Hart didn't just stop at comforting words, he took action. Now, Hart admitted he didn't really know OPR Winfrey personally, but he promised Monique that he'd reach out to Tyler Perry, and he did just that. After a heartfelt conversation with Perry, Hart came back to Monique with some promising news. Perry was ready to bury the hatchet and move past the drama. Hart, being the voice of reason, urged Monique to do the same. He told her, "Let's leave all that negativity in the rearview mirror, Mo. We've got bigger things to accomplish together." But Hart's generosity didn't stop there. In a conversation with Shannon Sharp, Monique revealed that Hart not only offered emotional support, but also extended a professional hand. He proposed to partner with her and even offered to executive produce any project she wanted to bring to life. Monique recounted Hart's words, saying, "Mo, I talked to Tyler. He said he didn't want to revisit it, but I'll tell you what, let's move past that, Mo. Let's just do great things together. Don't even worry about it. Whatever you want to do, I will partner with you. I'll executive produce with you. You just let me know."
I want you to hear me, Kevin Hart. Let's move past that, Mo. Let's do some great things together. Don't even worry about it. Whatever y'all want to do, I will partner with you. I'll executive produce with you. You just let me know what you want to do.
She also spilled the beans about how Kevin came through big time, lending her a hefty sum of cash. And get this, she even returned it with interest. But here's where it gets juicy. After Hart promised to help her get her talk show back on track. Naturally, Monique was stoked, and who wouldn't be? Having Kevin Hart as a producer could skyrocket any project. So she excitedly tells her producers and Endemol, her media production company, and they're all on board, thrilled at the prospect of working with such a big star. But plot twist, 2 weeks later, Monique gets hit with some devastating news. Endemol drops the bombshell that Kevin Hart's manager, Dave Becky, gave them a ring to say that Kevin had cold feet. Monique picks up the phone, hoping for an explanation from Hart himself. And what does she get? A vague reassurance. "We'll talk Tuesday. Don't worry about it," he says.
That's a miscommunication, and we're going to talk Tuesday. Don't worry about it. I'm telling you right now, it's a miscommunication. That was 2 years ago. If you talk to him, I talk to him. I've never talked back to Kevin Hart again.
Fast forward 2 years and crickets. Monique hasn't heard a peep from Kevin since. Now some fans are crying foul, suggesting that maybe Kevin never intended to help Monique in the first place. They're pointing to his sketchy track record, like that time he claimed he didn't really know OPR Winfrey. I mean, come on, who could forget the whole OPR sending him flowers ordeal after his accident in 2019? In a chat with Ellen, they got into it, with Ellen explaining how she reached out to Kevin after hearing about his accident and back surgery. Kevin shared that he received plenty of flowers from well-wishers, but it was OPR floral gift that stood out. According to Kevin, OPR flowers are like a never-ending story. They're still thriving, turning his place into a botanical paradise. It's become a joke in his house, with everyone wondering when OPR flowers will finally call it quits. Kevin even joked about someone secretly watering them because, despite neglect, they just won't die. The flowers are so significant that they've taken over the dining table, leaving the Harts eating on the floor rather than disturb OPR cherished plant. And now he's claiming he doesn't really know her? Seems fishy, right? And then there's the wild rumor mill spinning tales about Kevin selling his soul to the likes of OPR and Tyler Perry. Supposedly, if he had lifted a finger to help Monique revive her career, it would have put his own career in jeopardy. Well, it appears that Kevin isn't just the lovable, funny guy we've all grown accustomed to. There's supposedly this whole other side to him that's been kept under wraps. But I'm curious to hear what you all make of these allegations. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and we'll catch you in the next video.